So this is Luke Luttrell, everybody, and he is CEO of ProjectContent.com, also CEO of NextLED, some of the nicest hardware and software out there as far as electronic signage goes, and LED signs in specific. He has also been a leader in the electronic sign market for over 15 years. Very nice guy. Thanks for doing this, Luke. I really, really appreciate it. By the way, my name's Bob, everybody. I'm co-owner of Guthman Signs. So thanks for coming, Luke.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Enjoy spending time with other people in the sign industry.
Absolutely. We're a big family out here, so we'd appreciate having you. Thanks for making the time. So we'll just jump in, right? Just wanted to ask you some questions about content, kind of give people an idea of what's good, bad, and ugly about content, why it's important, that kind of thing. So I guess that's the first question. Why the heck is content important for an LED sign anyway?
I always equate buying a digital display for your business as buying the Ferrari, the sports car of sign options. And I don't know too many Ferrari owners who are going to purchase that beautiful piece of machinery and then fill it with 85 octane fuel.
Great.
If you're going to purchase the most premier piece of marketing tool for your business, then you should be filling it with the best fuel possible to get the best and biggest bang ROI for your expenditure. The second thing I like to think of why content's so important is that this dynamic machine that you've purchased is your new 24-hour-a-day employee that's going to be working out on the street for you. And that employee, if it shows up with an untucked shirt, messy hair, and a poor attitude, is not going to bode well for your marketing and your brand, and is going to be perceived poorly. And really, content is king, and you're going to need to feed this beast daily to get the amazing outcomes that it is absolutely capable of delivering.
So I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here. I hear every day it's super important. That sounds like a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. Whether any form of marketing that your business is participating in, and it should be diverse. You should have your marketing efforts put in a lot of different places. But each area or tactic of marketing requires a different level of activity, performance, skill, knowledge, and consistency. And so you have to take the approach that this is going to be a lot of work. But just because it's going to be a lot of work doesn't mean that you should avoid this technology. What it means is that you need to understand how it works, how to utilize resources that are available to you to make it as easy as possible. And 3, how to craft messages in the right way so that it's easy for you to see the impact and understand what it is doing for you.
Sounds like a lot of empathy is important there, knowing your audience, that kind of thing, I assume. So what makes effective content then? I mean, I know that's a super simple question, probably overly simple, but what makes good content good for a certain audience? What should we be thinking about?
Well, when I think about content and what's good content, I think of 2 things. One is 8 seconds, 8 words. Your audience that you're attracting with these outdoor digital signs is only going to give you a glance while they're driving. And if you're lucky enough to be at the intersection, you might get a few more seconds. But they're going to give you that quick glance. And because it is a short window of time, you're only going to have a short window of time to get your point across. And so a common mistake I see is people having too much information too fast and not the right use of the words to drive home a message. Now, a lot of people think that they've got to get the whole message out in that few quick second glance that they get, but about 85% of your customers are going to be living within a 5-mile radius of your business. And that bodes well, because most people, whether they're going to work or going to school or going to the grocery store, drive the same streets. And if you're on that street that they're driving, you're going to be in front of them multiple times per week. So even if they give you that glance once, twice, 10 times a week, even if you don't catch their full attention the first time, you're going to have multiple chances. The frequency of that message is going to be very strong. And so keep it simple, keep it short, and make it easy to digest, so that after seeing it 3, 5, 7 times in 1 week, it starts to stick. Being able to easily digest it and to remember it is important, because it creates this top of mind awareness. Creating advertisements and content that helps build your branding and brand your business's image makes it easy for people to remember who you are, what you do, so that when they're in the market for those services, it's top of mind. The second thing that makes for good content is a call to action, and that can be in the future or it can be today. I mean, everyone preferably wants that impulse action today, but sometimes that call to action can be in the future, whether it be a specific event or a specific sale or a specific outcome that you're trying to reach. So putting the right messaging in there to drive the right outcomes with your business is important. And that does take experience. It does take somebody who has a marketing mind. It does take that empathy, or putting yourself in your clients and your customers' shoes, like you mentioned earlier, Bob, so that you are creating the right message in 8 seconds or less with 8 words or less. And it sounds easy, and we'll talk about this some more later, but the truth is, I mean, large marketing agencies get paid thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to run outdoor advertising campaigns, and they do it in 8 words or less. So even though it's only 8 words, using the right words and matching it with the right content, the right graphics, the right colors is an art, and it does have varying levels of skill and expertise.
Awesome.
One last thing on what makes good content. So on the actual graphics side of it, because a lot of people ask that question, for outdoor digital displays, we're working with such a small pixel matrix compared to an HD television screen and other digital platforms. And so with this technology, it's very important that your colors have good contrast and that the text that you do use is easy to read. A lot of softwares do have the ability, but not all of them have the ability to use a good stroke and or a good shadow to help accent the letters. And the size. One of the reasons why we always say 8 words or less is because it's easy to read, but also it allows on those digital displays to have a much larger letter. And the larger the letter is on your display, the easier it is to read, especially from a further distance. And then the last thing, which I think is the most important and the hardest thing to do with content, especially if you're doing it yourself, is the transitions. The transitions between slides, that's what catches people's attention. And everyone is trained to know what a wipe is or a fade is because they've been around since the 90s with PowerPoint, and they're great tools. But if everyone on the street is doing it, people's eyes are not wowed by it, and they're not catching it as being something different. And the human brain is certainly wired to notice difference. And so utilizing newer transition techniques and utilizing high animated content for those transitions can make a big difference in catching someone's attention and giving you that impression over and over and over throughout the length of your messaging.
Wow, that's awesome info. Thank you so much. And I like how you broke it down into like easy points. That's the first time I've ever heard it broken down so simply. Thank you. And I know our people that watch this are gonna, get a lot out of that for sure. I've actually heard, to your point about, having content on a sign and understanding what makes good content visually, and the negative bias, I think it's called, when people, we're always looking for the difference, the different thing about what's going on.
Yep.
I actually met with a customer once on site in front of their LED sign. And it was an old LED sign, and it actually had nothing wrong with it. Obviously I own a sign company. My job was to get them a new sign, but my job's also to be honest. So they had the sign there, and beautiful sign, nothing wrong with it. They just had really bad content. They didn't know it. They thought it was something wrong with the sign. So they actually, what I did to show them that was say, what do you like about the content that's on the sign? And then he just went into, he said, well, I like the size, or I forget what it was, but there was something simple about that he did like. But then he went all into the negative, all the differences, all the bad things that he didn't like about it. And I just took notes. And then we had a designer do that for him, what he was describing, put it up on the sign, and it was like you thought he had a new sign, right? It was amazing. But those things like that happen probably too often because I think so few people really understand those simple points that you just got across. So thank you. Hardware versus software. Luke, you're in a super specific kind of circumstance to where you're kind of a specialist in both areas, owning a hardware company and making LED, high-end, very high-quality LED displays in NextLED, and project content with the software end over here. I guess the question is, how should I phrase it? What role does hardware play in your decision to choose a sign, or what should you think about, content first or the sign first? How do we make that decision on what's important for the sign, and how do these content and hardware, how do they go together? How do we put that together?
I think that it's 100% guarantee that you have to weigh that in making your decision when purchasing a display. If your future LED display that you purchase isn't capable of delivering the messaging and the image that you're requiring or that you're dreaming of for your business and your branding, then you need to walk away. Because one, you're not going to be happy with the purchase, and two, if you're not happy with it, you're probably not going to put your full effort behind using it, and three, ultimately, it's just not going to do your business very well. But with that said, it now being 2020, most full color LED display manufacturers have been around for 5 to 10, 15, 20 plus years. And the technology has improved greatly, whereas most manufacturers are using a bare minimum standard of components that allow for great content. And so there are a variety of manufacturers that you can choose and have great content. And so the industry as a whole has increased dramatically over the last 10 years. And so as a consumer, as a purchaser of this product, especially with somebody like Guthman, you're going to get a great option. And you will probably have 3 to 5 great options when it comes to purchasing a display. Most manufacturers are offering software with the purchase of displays. And with that, they're also offering, content libraries and content packaging. But where most, if not all manufacturers, they are lacking in content libraries and the software in which they deliver that tool to you. I think as a business owner, it's important to recognize that this element or this medium of advertising requires a high level of experience and expertise to be able to deliver the best of the messaging. Doesn't mean that you can't do it yourself, but being able to utilize tools to cut your time and to improve the quality of the content and the messaging that you want to use is something that you need to consider. And I do believe that, including NextLED, that there are some limitations in manufacturer software and the libraries that they offer. They're good, but they're not great. And that's where we started Project Content 2.5 years ago to solve that problem, to create better tools to allow customers to get the most of their digital signs, regardless of who the manufacturer is.
Awesome. So where do you think content packages go wrong when they're attached to these signs? It seems like it's been an afterthought for so long in the industry, maybe because of, I don't know, I'm just guessing, but maybe because the definitions weren't high enough for it to be transmittable onto the face to the customer, on the face of the sign rather. Maybe that's why, or maybe it's a different reason, but it seems like it's taken a back seat for so long. Yet you're telling me you should really think about content first, what you want to get across first, and then choose, in conjunction with that, choose the sign that's going to be able to do that, rather than vice versa, get the best price or get whatever variable you want in the sign, and then think about content afterwards. That's been going on for quite a long time, from what I understand. What do companies get wrong with content packages?
Well, I definitely think that most manufacturers or custom electric sign companies who are delivering this product to the regional marketplaces have known that content has been an issue for a long time. And when it has been provided as a solution, it's always been added on the back end. And it's usually only been added when customers do have that doubt of, how am I going to do this? You know, I sell pet food supplies. The only graphic design tool I know how to use is Microsoft PowerPoint, right, or Microsoft Paint. Right. And so when customers have those objections or have those doubts, that's where I've seen a lot of people come in and try to offer packages. Right. So whereas there are good dealers out there like Guthman who's promoting content the way it should be at the beginning, most are not. And that's where I think the problem's been, is that by doing it on the back end, it's like a Band-Aid just to close the sale and get on with it. And so what happens is a small business or even a large corporation that has multiple locations gets into this high technology piece of equipment, this type of software that nobody goes to school to learn how to do. And then they're putting it on the backs of either an hourly employee or a marketing agency that's already spread thin. Right. And so when you have all those things working against you, it's very easy for your digital sign to have generic content that's not standing out and is not generating a good ROI. And so from a content package perspective, I think that if a business owner goes into this thinking, I'm not going to put 85% octane or 85 octane into my Ferrari, I'm going to put the top of the line fuel into my Ferrari of a marketing machine, they can make the right choice up front, have the correct expectations of what this is going to take, and be committed to making it do what it's supposed to be doing. And if you can get that whole line correct in the process, that buying journey, then you're going to, as a business owner, be way more excited and way more profitable and have more attendance, whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish with your display, than you would have ever dreamed of with this technology.
Awesome. That's perfect. Yeah, it makes sense. This is why we're doing this video, to get this out there. I mean, absolutely. Think about content first and consider it first before you think about anything else, really.
Yeah, because you mentioned it earlier. I mean, this is a marketing tool, and this is a part of your media package. And so just as you would care about how you're going to look in front of a television commercial or how you're going to sound or be perceived on a radio ad, it's all the same. And you need to be prepared with what it takes to make the best image possible to your customers.
Yeah, and we hear it every single day. I hear it from our guys every single day. I deal with it every day. And it's kind of the old garden signs that everyone still sees out there with the monochrome red, and it's got,
Yeah.
2 lines of text on it that say, church on Sunday, 10 a.m. or hot dogs for sale, whatever it is. But it's literally just 3 or 4 words in a text-only format with no background, with no outline, nothing different to look at. It's absolutely an invisible sign design.
Yeah.
That's what I call them, invisible, because no one can see it. It's like it's not even there, because like we were talking about earlier with that negative bias or the differentiation bias, I think it's called, whatever. The idea is that something different is what our brain looks at.
There's a bank, well, I know it now, about 3/4 of a mile from my house. And in a conversation with another business owner, we were trying to landmark, where something was. Someone, by that bank over on that street. And I was like, I live over there. I do not know what you're talking about. He's like, yeah, they've got a digital sign. And I'm like, I promise you, I see every digital sign on every street. And well, there was 2 things. One, it was a monochrome display, which had its day in the sun, 10, 15, 20 years ago. But it's been on, and I drive down that street all the time, and that bank has been invisible to me for the 3 years that I've lived down the street from it. And because it's red text, it never changes. Now, I notice it now because now it's a case study for me.
Exactly.
But even somebody that's in the industry that's looking for these signs can miss them if they are, as you put it, invisible.
Yeah, so while we're looking at all the different ins and outs of what makes good content good and bad content not so good, looks like Luke might be able to show us some cool examples. I'm sure he's got a few in his pocket to kind of illustrate the topics we've been talking about a little bit.
Sure. As with most methods used in marketing, different tactics, different campaigns, tracking is not always tangible. Especially when you're trying to build brand awareness and have a consistent message and image in your community. But what we have observed over the years are 2 major trends. And one is that bad content doesn't work. And so here's an example of what I consider to be bad content. It's not bad in the sense that, the words are spelled right. There's 2 different colors that are certainly contrasting well with the black background. But as I've alluded to it previously, is that this type of messaging is not being noticed by the traffic driving by. If you ask them to specifically look at this, they're going to be able to read it and they're going to be able to understand what it's communicating to them, but only because you told them to look at it. When you're trying to capture the attention in that short glance from somebody who's driving by at 45 miles an hour, they're probably not going to be looking for this display. And so by simply tweaking it with better content, you can now create an animated and more vibrant display that is moving in a way that can capture attention and keep people looking at it frequently throughout the week as they travel to school, to work, to the grocery store. Here's a good example right here of a particular ad. This is a custom ad that we've created for a local car dealership. And it's just a now hiring ad, but you'll notice, as I've alluded to, there's great contrast in the colors. There's less than 8 words, and the words are large enough so that they're easy to read on an outdoor display. And then the most important part is that eye-catching transition. That's not your typical PowerPoint fade or wipe. And so bad content does a few things. If you don't take the time to change your message frequently, if you don't take the time to have a great message, you're really telling your customer don't care much about it. And that's a powerful message, even when it's a negative one. And so bad content doesn't work. And when the aesthetics of your content are poor, in addition to the poor message or lack thereof changing it, your potential customers will not lock in on your display. Your sign will be drowned out by the hundreds of other messages and signs along the street. You're not going to cut through the clutter, and you will not be building that regular audience that you can communicate to on a weekly, daily, hourly basis. Now, great content, on the other hand, drives retention. The goal here is to retain customers, build new relationships, and keep them engaged with your sign in their daily interactions while driving your street. We have a large number of auto dealerships that we provide both template and custom content services for. And we've seen that 4 out of 5 auto dealerships have been able to track considerable foot traffic growth when they used focused promotions only on their digital displays with a specific marketing campaign. And so if you use this tool correctly, you can run certain messages and certain campaigns that will allow you to track activity, track engagement, and track sales. And so if you're putting this into your full campaign for a month or a quarterly campaign, if you use this in conjunction with your other tools, you can track it and you will see considerable changes in growth if you're using the right message and you're using the right aesthetics. One other story that I like to refer to from as a case study. There's a local parish in our town that is using our product and services for the first time this year. And they have an annual parish event, like a community event where they have food and they have a bazaar and they do some other things. They saw a 20% increase this year as opposed to last year in attendance. And when I reflected with them upon that after the event, they did make a considerable effort to focus the message for that event 2 to 3 weeks before, and they made it consistent. So there was only like 2 or 3 messages at once. And that's one thing I haven't talked about yet today. Don't put 50 messages on there, because you're not going to get that one strong message, top of mind awareness thing through unless people see it 6, 7, 8, 10 times a week. And so we encourage them to run that parish event advertising 2 out of 3 rotations and do it consistently for 2 to 3 weeks before the event. Now, there was most likely some other factors that led to that 15-20% growth, but I guarantee you the LED display had a lot to do with 12 to 15% of that. And so having the right message, using it at the right time, and then being consistent and loading your display up with those 1 or 2 key messages will drive growth and retention of the information you're trying to present.
It's pretty obvious to me why a custom content tool like Project Content is so important. So I'm sure there's others out there. What makes Project Content special? What makes you special, Luke? Just kidding.
Well, certainly not my hairline. I think when we got started with this, and it's still today, the goal is, we want business owners to get the most out of this technology. We believe in it. And in order to be able to do that, we have to, as an industry, create tools that make it easy, that make it quick, and that make it impactful with the messaging we're creating. And whereas the software that's available to most sign owners is good, it's not as good as, say, an Adobe Creative package or suite of professional design tools. And most business owners don't have somebody on staff that has expertise with Adobe Creative Suite and all the tools that it takes to create these high-end images. And a lot of businesses don't have access to a marketing agency or don't want to spend the dollars that a marketing agency would charge for you to create this type of content. And so focusing in on the business owner or a department that wants to get the most out of their digital signs and wants to do it the right way, they really need an easier solution and a more affordable solution and an amazing solution that's going to turn their display into a revenue generating machine. And so when we create project content, we started with just custom services, where we have a team of account managers who work with clients to take their assets that they use in print material or web material or for television advertisements, whatever it might be. We take those assets and we professionally turn them into the right content for these digital displays. That's where we started. But then we knew that not everybody was interested in that dollar point or that price point from a package perspective. And they might not also use it as much. So that's where we came up with Presto. And so what we've got now is a variety of collections that have multiple templates that are professionally designed by our staff and are editable for a consumer or for a business. And so, for example, we can open up one of these templates and we can preview it. This template right here on its own can work and you can download it as is, but wouldn't you like to edit it to meet your message? And so an example of it is, we have multiple locations in the metro area. And so that the only way you can screw it up is if you spell it wrong. So you're going to come in, you're going to change our message and our colors, and then when you preview this display and you get ready to put it on your digital display, it's going to have your words and your message with our professional design and our professional templates. And so that's Presto, and that's an automated service that's part of our packaging and our library of templates. And so whether you're looking for a more customized approach that meets your messaging and your branding, we can serve you there. And if you're looking for a more template-based approach to where you want to just take previous templates that we've made and just edit certain components of them, that service is there for you as well. This right here is a real common bank one that people like to use. And the reason why, they can come in here and they can just change this to, if you're looking to sell mortgage rates, you can put a 15-year mortgage and 3.3% APR. That's a pretty good rate. And so now this is ready to go. And it doesn't matter if my sign's a rectangle or if it's square. Our content's going to auto respond to whatever your pixel matrix is, and you can be guaranteed that it's going to look right on your display every time, and that it's going to catch the attention and meet all of the objectives and the comments I've made earlier.
Well, I really wish people knew how difficult it was for you to create this beautiful, simple solution. This is a beautiful tool, obviously. And it's always been a problem in our industry. Just for background for viewers, it's always been a problem in our industry to have a custom content solution that you could customize like this and also customize to the size of the display. Right. That was a big hiccup for a long time for a lot of people because the sizes of LED signs obviously aren't all the same. So you need a special graphic for each individual one.
It's also important to note that maybe you have 3 signs in your business, and right, not only are they different manufacturers, but they're also different pixel matrix and aspect ratios. And so having one platform where you can come to create the same ad and export it 3 different ways to be able to load on 3 different software packages with 3 different sign manufacturers creates a unique tool you can't find anywhere else in the industry.
Man, that's really nice. Thanks for showing me that. This is a brand new tool, guys, everybody. So this is the first time I've actually looked into it in depth, that new tool. I did see what was going on in the background for a while there, so that's pretty cool to see it come out into fruition, ready for consumption. Just as a background on that Presto product in specific, I really think that's going to be an important one for our churches, smaller businesses, people that don't have a big monthly budget for marketing, but need the service. They're out there and they're going to benefit from that for sure.
And the software is designed to be more intuitive and doesn't require a lot of training. A lot of businesses, churches, and schools, people go to sleep and then they won't touch the sign for another 30 or 60 days. And so when you come back after that long of a gap, it's easy to forget things and to know how things work. And so you might spend an hour creating the same exact ad and it's not going to look nearly as good. And so if you had a service that can cut down your time from 60 minutes to 10, and you're going to get a professionally designed piece of content that meets your message and that you can do on your own online, it's a great, valuable tool. And we do think that we've got it priced affordably for small businesses in mind, because that is who's driving this technology across the entire country, is small business. And we love to support them and give them tools that help them do what they do best.
Of course, yeah. Well, I think everyone's going to find this really, really helpful. Any other final thoughts that you have for our folks that are kind of considering a new sign maybe, and maybe they're in the early stages? This all sounds super difficult. It can be off-putting, but we're here to help. But any ideas for those folks?
I just say digital signs in general. There is a strong case for digital signs in almost every part of our life. And the technology is not going anywhere. It's only going to become more and more part of our society. And so whether this is your first digital sign or you're purchasing a replacement for the one that you bought in 2010, the technology changes. And it is a purchase that requires some thought. And that if you put the right thought in and you pair your decision with somebody who's knowledgeable, like you, Bob, and Guthman Signs, that you can make the right choice and you can see a very successful outcome for this. And you can be really excited and happy about the purchase that you made. So I applaud you, Bob, for helping your customers out and giving them, as much information as they can. I'm glad to help you. And people can reach out to me on LinkedIn or through you or through our website. We're absolutely willing to help. We love it. And we want people to get the most out of this technology.
Take advantage of it, people. Thanks, Luke. I really appreciate your time. Everybody, if you have questions, put them in the comments wherever you saw this video. Ask a question. We're watching. We're there. We're not just faces on a camera or on a screen, rather. But yeah, reach out to us. We're here to help, even if it's just a question. We're not going to take advantage of your time. Thanks, guys, and thanks, Luke. Have a good day.
Thanks. Be well.